Hello and bienvenue to our podcast, Culturally Distressed, where we talk about all things about cultural differences and funny situation that can come out of it. My name is Loic. I'm a French-American gay millennial, which means that I have my fair share of experience with cultural distress in my life. And with me is my wonderful co-host, Miyoko Sakatani.
Hi, I am Miyoko, and I am a second generation Japanese American or Nisei, and I am a straight baby boomer. And you know something? I've been culturally distressed all of my life.
Welcome to the club. How are
And
you doing, Miyoko?
welcome to all of you who are
Yes.
listening today.
Yes.
Oh,
So how are you doing, Miyoko? How was your Thanksgiving?
it was good. So I'm doing great, and Richard and I are doing great. And so for our Thanksgiving, we did something different this year. We vol
Okay.
we volunteered at this church out in Oakland, and it's their 40th year of providing free Thanksgiving meals to, the low income and unsheltered community, and basically anybody who needs a meal are welcome to come in. So I did some entertainment. I played my ukulele and I sang some songs and, just helped out, and so it was a wonderful event.
Oh, that sounds so wonderful and such a meaningful Thanksgiving than to give back on that specific day.
Yeah, what I love about the Bay Area is it was just so, just, diverse, so diverse,
Yeah.
um, diverse cultures. So I'm thinking, so next year when I do it, I'm going to sing some international songs, a little Spanish, a little Cantonese, a little French,
Nice.
a little French.
So wait, do you speak all of these languages? Do you speak Spanish?
I speak some Spanish, and
Nice.
I have a good tongue, I guess, because I pick up languages very easy. But I've learned many different songs: Spanish, French, Cantonese, Mandarin. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
phonetically learn these songs. But
Nice.
I can't really carry on a conversation generally. But
Yeah. But it's
anyway,
great
so
that they say that people who grew up in, grew up exposed to like two languages, like you, right, with Japanese and English, picked up languages more easily in life
oh,
than other people. Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah,
yeah.
and was
What you were saying actually reminded me of an exercise I did when I was in acting school in Paris. And the teacher, basically the exercise was to learn on and dance on a song that was not a language you would understand. Just so that you remove any meaning from the word, I guess.
yeah.
And so that was interesting. Yeah. So I did a song in Korean. I did a
Oh
K-pop
wow!
song, which
Thank
was,
you.
yeah, it was fun to
Thank
just
you for
try to
reminding me.
learn.
I have
Yeah.
to add a Korean song in my list.
Oh, perfect. There you go.
So how was your, Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was great. We were in Palm Springs with Patrick's
Wow.
family. So yeah, it was really nice to be all of us there. And, we just had like a traditional Thanksgiving with so much food. So yeah, all the traditional American dishes. And I did my French family recipe rice pudding as one of the desserts.
Great.
Um, but yeah, it was great. Yeah.
So I
So
wanted
yeah, it was.
to ask you about Thanksgiving
Mhm.
in France. So is it pretty much the same kind of food, or is it more
Uh, we
traditional French
we
food?
don't do
Oh,
Thanksgiving
that's
in
why there's no
France. Yeah.
Thanksgiving in France. Oh, but there's probably something similar to that, like some kind of gratitude, day.
What? No, French people are not grateful.
Why don't you
No, we're
start
not
one? Why don't
grateful.
you start it? You could
What?
why don't you start a tradition?
No, I think it's actually really funny, but it's not. really in French culture to, to have gratitudes as much as it is in American culture, in my opinion. Um, but I think it's actually a very great thing to do and live by. So maybe it's something we can try someday.
You can start something.
If I ever go back living in France, I will keep celebrating Thanksgiving.
Yes, that's a start with your own family, and it'll catch on.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's not a French thing as of yet. And I think it's also like, I don't know, I feel like Thanksgiving to me is also part of, I think American people tend to be more um extrovert, I think, or maybe like sharing more than
More
French people.
more expressive.
Yes, more expressive, a bit more extreme in their reactions.
Yes.
Um, and so I think for that, the gratitude exercise feels more American than it does French. It's really interesting to see the difference of culture. Like we were joking with my best friend from France, Daphne, where for example, like in corporate America, if you have like an all hands or anything, like people will clap, like on like big news, big milestone, or like, positive thing, people clap here.
Yeah.
And we were joking that if I ever were to go back in France and work back in France, I
Mhm.
would be the only dude like clapping when we have all hands because it's just like
Yeah, and they're
no
all,
one does it.
"The hell are you doing?"
Yeah, and it's also that thing I feel like where like people, but it's also like you learn how to read people. Like just people are more excited in the US, and it's kind of lead to funny situation where I feel like my boss, for example, had a more like extreme positive reaction to my engagement than my mom will have, even though she's very happy for me. We're
Right.
just not as extrovert as in the US. So it's kind of like funny to see the difference
Yeah,
in
this part
vibe.
of
It's not in the feeling, it's in the way we express the
yes.
feeling.
So I did my first solo performance back in 2017, and it was like 20 minutes, and it was at the Marsh Theater in Berkeley. And, I I'm trying to think what motivated me to do this. I think one of the things is, I realized I was going to be growing older in the profession and that it would be harder to get, acting roles,
Mm.
only as an Asian woman, but as an older Asian woman. So I thought, well, solo performance might be an avenue to create my own work. But one of the best things and so I started doing some research. Okay, how do you do a solo performance and, what's it all about? And so one of the most important things that I learned was that find something that relates to you, your life, your personal experiences. And so that got me going. And I thought, yeah, yeah, I have a story to tell. So my first story, and it's been my theme ever since, is about my parents' immigration
Mm.
and, then my family's experience, during the war and, poverty and racism and my personal experience growing up in that environment, and so that was my first story, and, um, and I think it makes sense to talk about something that you know very well, you know? I was a little uncomfortable because it's like, "Okay, how much should I divulge? How much should I really share about my family? And what if my family hears it? How are they gonna feel?" So I had to really think about that. And, so then my next one was in 2023, and that was my big one. That was like 50 minutes on a bigger stage, a bigger venue, and it was just a longer version of what I did in 2017. So I
Okay.
told I told more in depth about, my mostly my mother. I talk mostly about my mother's immigration and what she experienced, what she went through with, meeting a strange man. There was an arranged marriage, so she never met him before. and all of a sudden she's here in America and she's married to this man that she doesn't even know.
Oh,
And
I'm sorry. Yeah, I had no idea this was like arranged wedding were also part of your culture.
yeah, what was the question? Did you have a question or was that a comment?
Oh, sorry. No, I'm just surprised. Sorry. Like
Oh,
yeah, I'm just discovering that arranged wedding is also something part of Japanese culture.
yes, it is.
Okay,
And
wow.
what happened was because so many of the men came over to America to make money, to farming or
Yeah.
whatever, that, you've heard of the picture bride? Have you heard
Um, yeah,
picture
is it when you select a bride based on a
Yeah, yeah,
picture?
on photos, yeah. But my
Wow. Okay.
mother wasn't theoretically a picture bride because what happened was my father's family and my mother's family lived close to in the countryside in
Okay.
in Hiroshima. And so it was the family's the father's decision to, "Oh, let's make them a match." So my father was already in America, and they decided that they were gonna send my mother here to marry him.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so that's what happened. It was an arranged marriage. So it was pretty tough, but they stayed together and they had 6 kids. So something worked. Um, anyway, so I tell that story and then I tell about the war and what happened to my family during the war and then what happened afterwards and then my experience growing up in the 60s and turning away from my culture. Um, so
So can can I ask you a question about the topic you just mentioned about the war and how it impacted your family? Is it something because I know sometimes in certain family there's some like big topics like that or like past trauma that family don't really like to talk about. I can see that in my own family, but I'm just curious, like, is it something in your family, like, cause you're born after the war? So did you hear like hearing all of these stories or is it something that you really had to dig and ask the question to know your family history?
very good question, and if you saw my solo, then you would know the answer to that.
Is that, wait, I did watch it. Wait, which one? I saw the 50 minutes one.
I
I
you
watched
saw the
it.
last one, so the first one yeah, so the first one, I go into all that detail, and,
Okay.
what happened was no, there was no talk
Mm.
about it, and there's a reason, a very important reason why there was most Japanese families who experienced the internment camps didn't really talk about it any in their family. So no, I knew absolutely nothing about it. I heard camp every once in a while, but I thought it was something else. Uh, so then what happened was, if and maybe I'll include this in my next solo. I was in high school in my history class. I was a senior in my history class, and my teacher made me stand up, and he said, "Miyoko, tell the class what happened to the Japanese during World War II in America during World War II." I said, "I don't know what happened." I was so embarrassed. It was like, "Oh my God." And, so and I think my teacher was very disappointed. But anyway, and it wasn't in our history books, by the way. Some of the dark history of America, were excluded from a lot of history books during that time.
Mm.
So anyway,
That's
I
yeah.
went I went home right away and I talked to my dad and I said, "What happened? What happened to us?" And so he told me some parts of it, but again, it was hard to talk about. And so I had to do my own research. And so I started
Mm.
to investigate and then I found out what happened and I learned more and more about it. And then I started asking more and more questions about that to my mother and father. And then I learned what happened to them and our
Mm.
family. So, anyway, that's how that happened. So that was pretty much my, solo in 2023. It was very autobiographical. And then in 2024, I did a very similar type of thing, but I talked more about Japanese American in, the, in show business, theatrical and stage, and how very little representation that we had. I mean, I can count on my hands how many Japanese American actors became famous. So,
Yeah.
so I talked about that history. And then this year, I'm preparing for my next one that will be February, first week of February. It's going to be biographical. So I'm going to talk about a woman who who is a very little known American hero, and she's a civil rights activist. But again, she's not talked about, and so I'm going to. So my 50-minute story is about her and what she accomplished.
Can you
Again during the war.
can you tell us a little bit more about her?
Yeah. So her name is Mitsue Endo, and she was a young woman, and she was sent to camp with her family during the war. And before she got sent to camp, she was fired from her job in California because they fired all the First of all, they hired very little Japanese Americans before the war, and then they fired them all when Pearl Harbor happened. It's a very anyway. So she got fired, and she was very upset, and so the American Civil Liberties, Japanese American Civil Liberties Union found this attorney, and this attorney decided to fight for their jobs. But then what happened was Pearl Harbor happened and the war began with Japan. And so this attorney, this white Irish attorney who fought hard for the Japanese Americans all of his life. So he decided to change the employment lawsuit into what's called a habeas corpus, and to file a petition against the unlawful detention of the Japanese Americans just because of their race.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, he needed someone as an ideal plaintiff um, that was a loyal American citizen, and he chose Mitsue Endo out of all the other employees that were filing the lawsuit. So he chose her because she would look like an ideal American, loyal American to the court of law. And so at first she says, oh no, please, not me. I'm very private and stuff." But then they talked to her and said, if we win our case, it'll be freedom, not only for you, but for your entire community. And that's when she says, "Oh my God, yes, of course I'll do it." And so the whole story is about how the whole court thing took about almost 3 years in the court.
Wow.
And I'm not going to give away the ending.
That's such an important story to tell.
Anyway,
And obviously a lot of, still very relevant
yes,
today.
that's why I wanted to tell this particular story.
Did anyone from your family saw any of your shows, and what did they think about it? Did it trigger some family conversations on that time? Like, yeah, I'd love to hear that perspective if you have something to share.
Well, here's the truth of the story. I sent it to my nephews.
Okay.
My nephews have been very supportive of my career, my acting career after I left nursing. So they're adults now. They're like in their 40s and stuff. But so I felt wonderful. I felt proud to send it to them, and so they saw it. They thought it was great, and I sent it to a cousin. My cousin he's an activist. So he's been very involved, and he even got an award for his activism. He was always involved with the incarceration of the Japanese.
Okay.
So I sent it to him, and I just felt so good that he said it was very good.
Um,
Did I send it to and my parents are both gone now. Did I send it to my siblings? No. I'm not, I just don't feel ready yet for for
Oh, so
them.
you okay, so you didn't share it with your siblings.
No,
Okay.
because it's a very personal story. I talk about my parents, I talk about my family, I talk about my older sisters and brother who experienced that. I was born after the war.
Mm,
So
yeah.
so they're the ones who really experienced, that.
Yeah.
And so I talk about all that, and, I just feel a little uncomfortable yet.
Mm. Which is totally understandable. I feel like it's obviously such a heavy topic. But I think it's really brave for you to explore that topic, talk about it on stage, and just sharing your truth. Because I think this is why we're doing what we're doing, right? Just finding that truth to ourselves and sharing that on stage.
Yes, and so you and I have shared about who's gonna see this podcast.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I even this podcast, I'm feeling that they're not going to see it.
Yeah.
So,
Which is
uh
fair. We have a small but mighty following right now.
so, it's nothing bad. There's nothing bad about it. I just feeling a little not ready.
If I were to do something in French, I feel like I would tone down some of the jokes. Um,
Point. Tone
I
tone
yeah,
down. Yeah. Tone down, I like that. Yeah.
yeah, because I feel like I don't know. Yeah, I just it's that thing where like I am I ready to hear my parents? No, no, am I ready to see my parents hearing me making jokes about gay sex or stuff like that? It's a bit pushing it. I would say this though. When I did my first stand up in a comedy show, um one of my family has been very supportive of my comedy career and what I'm trying to do. And one of my sisters has been so supportive, and she was actually talking about it with my mom when I was in France last year. And she showed her the video of my full stand up, and it was like a 10-minute set. And like my mom couldn't understand one word of English, and yet she was laughing and she was just happy to see me on stage doing what I love and also hearing people
Yeah.
laugh.
How nice.
So that was very cute. That was a
Yeah.
very cute moment. Yeah. But the other day, oh my God, yeah, one of my sisters was telling me that I, I have my sketch series, Delusional Boys, that I'm relaunching. I've been pivoting multiple times to try to find more, uh, you know, find more audience on social media. So it's still very much a work in progress. But I'm releasing bits now again. But anyway, my point is that as I release that, one of my sisters who don't really speak English try to understand it using AI, but was also doing this with my like 13-year-old nephew, and I really don't want my nephews or nieces to see that kind of comedy.
Yeah.
So it's also that thing of like, I
Good
don't
point.
know.
Yeah.
Uncle Loic is a little bit crazy, I guess, and I'm trying to protect them from that.
That's sorta like a culturally distressed moment, you know what I mean?
I guess it is.
Really, that's it's interesting. So some of it is being self-conscious about that, being trying to be considerate and respectful, and also approval.
Yeah, I think for me, and I've worked a lot on it, and I think now I'm saying I'm mostly healed on that front. It's gonna sound weird, but I feel like to me there was two coming outs I had to go through in a way. There was the first coming out like, hey, I prefer I prefer men, I'm gay. And I think there was a second coming out, which was more like, I want to be a comedian, if that makes sense. Because I feel like I don't come from a background with a lot of access to culture.
Mhm.
And those kind of careers were a little bit frowned upon. Like it's not a serious, choice. I feel like I had to, you know, like, oh, I'm gay. And also, by the way, I would love to do some silly comedy. I also think that there was another part of me where, because I feel like there was a bit of like a shame to try to be an
Mm,
artist.
mm.
Um, I also feel like early in my 20s, I will try to do something more serious because I wouldn't see something as comedy as serious. So I feel like I was in acting school, try to do maybe more like dramatic plays and everything. I mean, I've done silly comedy always on the side, but I feel like there was a part of me that was trying to maybe go towards a more like respected, I guess, form of art, just
Yeah.
because I feel like it would be more like something I could justify more easily. Um, versus comedy seemed like, oh, that silly thing, you want to do that?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but if I'm being honest with myself and actually look back when I was a kid, I was actually watching those sketch comedy group in France. One of them was called Les Inconnus, so the unknown. They were so funny. I would watch the sketch, and I remember telling myself as a kid, "Oh my God, this is the best job in the entire world to just make silly videos with your friends."
Mhm.
But I guess it just took me a while to get there. So I think, the thing with, there's definitely been you know, um, some old wound that needed some healing when it comes to comedy for me. And I think that's why I now feel like I'm moving to a place where I'm more comfortable sharing what I do with them. The more I dive into it, like, it's also such a noble art form to me. First of all, it's very difficult. Like,
Very
it's,
difficult,
yeah,
yes.
doing comedy is one of the hardest thing you can do. And I think to me, it's just so, I don't know, it's just so positive and important. I feel like just bringing joy to the world and bringing people to laugh. How cool is that? To me, it's truly the coolest thing you could do. And that's why I just love doing it, any chance I can. Oh boy, I do have a cultural distress moment this week that's gonna take us in a wildly different direction.
Uh-oh.
If you are you are you ready? Are you ready for it, Miko? I have
I
an
think so.
insane
I'm gonna hold
traveling story. Oh, what
on.
was that? Sorry.
I'm gonna hold on. Hold on
Okay,
tight.
well, I want to share with you the most insane and unhinged travel story that happened to me just a couple days ago. Actually, I was on my red eye from LA to Miami. And I'm a very easy sleeper. Like, I can very easily sleep anywhere. I remember once in my 20s, I actually, uh, we were actually at the club with my friends, and I felt a bit tired. I literally took a nap at the club on a couch and then went back to party. I wasn't drunk. I just needed a quick power nap, and I did that. And I could sleep through the music. So my point is, I'm a very easy sleeper. I was sleeping for a couple hours in, and at some point, I'm on the aisle, and at some point, the sound coming from this window side and the smell wakes me up. And this guy is actually getting sick, but like, it's really bad. And I can talk about it because by the end of the flight, he was fine. But basically, he starts throwing up. But like, it was The Exorcist. I'm not kidding. There were puke everywhere, and I don't know how that happened. There were puke, because there were puke on the window, like on the
Oh,
wall. It was just so I got some help. So basically, the girl sitting between us was his girlfriend, I presume. So she was dealing with him, and I was like, I'm gonna get someone to help you deal with that. So I go get the flight attendant, but the smell is so bad that I can't be in my seat. So I just hang out at the back of the plane. But then who's also hanging out at the end of the plane, the back of the plane, is the girl who was sitting in front of him, and he threw up on her in this whole
Oh,
thing. She has puke on her hair. She has puke on her clothes. So she is legitimately distressed, as she should be. But
I
to be
hope
fair,
this isn't people's dinner time or anything.
like, no, yeah, let's hope so. But like, I feel like she honestly handed ah, she did a good job handling it. I
Yeah.
feel like I would have freaked out. Like we would have done an emergency landing if I was this girl, because I was like, no way I was going to stay this way. But she was still like asking for help because she was like, can I get some wipes, some stuff to clean myself up? Like, and I feel like no one was really taking charge in helping her. And so I started talking to her. I was like, are you okay? And then she was like, look, can you help me? And so basically I ended up being the one wearing gloves, taking a wipe
Oh,
and removing peel from her hair. But what is kind of funny was that first of all, it was so surreal. At some point, we look at each other and we start laughing. We just couldn't stop. It was just so ridiculous. But then what also happened is that Patrick and I, we couldn't sit next to each other because there wasn't two seats together. So he was on the other side of the aisle. Kind of like noticed what happened, but then went back to sleep. But basically at some point he wakes up. I was like, where's Loic? He goes to the bathroom and just sees me at the back of the plane, just like with latex gloves on and just removing puke from this stranger's hair. And so he got very confused. I was like, what is happening there?
uh-oh.
So that was very intense. And just a little PSA, the flight attendant was telling me that people tend to get sick on the day after Thanksgiving because people
Oh,
drink and eat a lot.
oh my.
So it is a factor. Um, but yeah, it was just such a wild experience. And yeah, I definitely feel, I'm not sure if it fits within the culturally distressed
I was wondering what
scene.
would fit into this.
I don't know. I guess like flying culture, maybe. I don't know, but
This would never happen
um,
in France or what?
I don't know, or maybe no, because I'm not sure. By the way, that it felt. I'm not sure if everyone would have helped that girl, but I don't. And I'm not saying it's because I'm French.
Yeah,
But I think it's because I'm spiritual, and I was like, if I was in her shoes, I would want someone to help me. So I feel
yeah,
like it's also very, um, kind of like powerful, those acts of kindness, and like,
right.
okay, I'm gonna help this stranger
Wow.
because in her situation, I
Yeah,
would want to be helped too.
yeah,
Does
and
that
that
count?
and that's a lot. I mean, wearing gloves and pulling puke out of her hair?
It was disgusting,
I'm
and I
not
felt so bad for her. And
yeah,
she
I'm
had
not
like such a well done hairdo with like pins and everything, and yeah, it's just I felt bad. And can you imagine just one? And I'm sorry, this moment was a bit graphic in the podcast, but like, can you imagine something worse? Okay, besides crashing, but what is the worst thing that can happen to you on the
on the
plane? That
phone.
being woken up because it's raining puke on you. Can you imagine? I would freak out. That was insane.
Yeah, thank you for the graphic.
I'm so sorry. I think it was so much that I'm still processing, and I feel like I have
You
to
know,
talk about it. I talk about
yeah,
it to everyone I'm talking to
okay,
since it
I
happened.
think that's what it's about. You needed
Yeah,
to express that.
I need to express that.
You know, the thing that came to my mind is not only was it a generous thing for you to do, a kindness but the fact that you're a man. You know what I'm saying? I would generally think another woman would do something like
That's a good point. That's
yeah,
a good point.
yeah,
Yeah, and,
y
and the blessing of growing up with like three sisters, I really feel like I've always had an easy connection with women. Um and also, because I'm gay and I feel like people pick up on that vibe. Like I don't know, it's just like there's no ambiguity and I
yeah,
have amazing female friendships and I,
mhm.
I think I just women tend to trust me easily, I guess. Just because I guess I've been used to
That's
being
a good
around women my whole life. Yeah.
but I had 3 brothers and then me.
Mm.
So I also relate much easier and better with men.
And look at us now, being friends with one another.
Yes, there you go.
So how about you? Let's move on from the graphic detail of my cultural distress moment, which wasn't really a cultural distress moment,
No,
but
from now on,
more
I'm gonna hold
I
my breath.
need I need therapy and I need to talk about it. No, but just I'm gonna be I'm flying again in a few days, and I'm like I'm just I'm gonna take wipes. I think I'm just gonna clean everything since because after what I've seen, there's germs
Oh, yeah.
everywhere,
Oh, yeah.
everywhere, even where you wouldn't expect. So, all right, moving on from that topic, Miyoko.
Yeah.
What's your culturally
Anyway,
distressed moment you want to share?
yes, I think mine is culturally distressed. No, I'm going to relate it to my solo performances because, I you know, um, the fact that, I started with this with the premise of always making it autobiographical and sharing parts of my life. And of course, my life is being Japanese American. And but there's a part of me that feels, it's almost like the imposter syndrome
Hmm,
because I was so resistant or I denied my culture for so many years. I was very rebellious, it was in the 60s and I just wanted to be a part of that whole scene, the hippie scene and I didn't want to be a part of the Japanese scene. And I turned away from my family for many years. And so when I'm doing my shows now, I sometimes wear a kimono jacket and I talk about my history, my family history. And there's just a part of me that feels a little like, do I have a right to do this? Am I am I authentic enough? Am I Japanese enough to talk about my people? Yeah, it's there's that distress for me for doing my solos. Just being
that's interesting.
conscious of am I totally embracing my heritage now? Um, I don't know.
Do you think it's part of the, experience of being first or second generation, right? Yeah, when you experience both culture, but what I'm hearing is, do you actually feel legitimate for both culture, right? Do you think it's because of that in between that you feel this way?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the in between, but my personal experience particularly, because if I compare myself to a lot of other people that I know that are my age,
Hmm.
no, I don't think they were as rebellious as me.
Hmm.
I went through this long period. Well, I was estranged from my mother for many, many years.
Yeah.
Uh, I just wanted to divorce myself from my
Yeah.
whole background.
But
So that's not
you
in
explore, yeah. But I was going to say you exploring that right now with everything you're doing with your solo performances is also a beautiful way to show how um, you went through that journey, but now you embrace that heritage. And I think what a beautiful way to actually, um, showcase that than, the solo performance that you're doing. Um, so
Well,
it's a beautiful thing.
at this point in my life, I feel almost a sense of responsibility
Yeah.
to to share these stories with the world, the general
Yeah.
public.
Yeah. Which is also to me the why I love doing this podcast so much with you. I feel like you had so many interesting stories to share with the world, and then I come in and share my puke stories from the plane. So I really think we have the same level of importance.
We're a good balance. And I
And
think
with that being
we can pivot our way out of the airplane and out of the
yeah. Yes.
And
I'm sorry, I brought us right back there. All right, I think it's time to wrap it up, if that works for you. So thank you so much for our listeners.
yes, and
Most
I
likely,
also want to make one comment.
oh yes, please.
You need to make your chair a little more stationary.
Oh my God, I keep doing
You're
this.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're
it's because I'm
flipping
in a
back and
hotel
forth.
room and I can
Yeah,
move my chair
so
like this.
you
I know. Oh
might
my God.
make other people throw up,
That's oh my God.
you know,
Don't troll me, Miyoko.
with motion sickness.
I'm sorry. If you've watched this podcast and you felt sick, you're entitled to compensation, please reach out to us. You can find us on social media, Cultural Distress Pod. We also have a Gmail address. And obviously you can find episodes on Apple, Spotify, and our YouTube channel.
And please send us your culturally distressed moments because we really want to hear about that and we can
Yeah,
share it.
because right
We
now we haven't received one single email from you guys. So, Richard and Patrick, what are you guys doing?
we really appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you so much. And be kind to one another. And remember, when you see someone you don't understand, maybe they're going through a cultural distress moment. So be
Never
kind to them.
Yes. And a shout out to all of the food banks and the food pantries in America. Thank
Yes,
you.
very important what you're doing.
Sayonara and
Merci. Au
aloha.
revoir.
Be well and take good care.